Okay, I think we need to start. Good morning, everybody. I'm so glad you came out and glad to see you. My gosh, it seems like 2 months. Oh, it has been 2 months, but it seems like a year. I've missed you, but I've been working hard, so hopefully you have too. So I'm going to make some announcements first. First of all, if you don't know who I am, I'm Linda Brody, and I'm the president-elect for next year. So you'll be seeing more of me. Okay, I am. We have refreshments back here, water, cookies, and donuts, so help yourself. We're very informal here. There's going to be lunch afterward at the King Street Pub. That's on Indiana 92nd. Raise your hand if you plan on coming to the lunch. Okay. I have several announcements. The September meeting is going to be at the Luca building facility on it's at the ice house in there. You know, each room is named a different thing. So we're going to be in the ice house. Oh, I hope it's not cold. But that might be okay, as long as it's been. It's very nice though, and I've attended a lot of things over there. It's downtown on Avenue K.
It's right across from the Buddy Holly Performance Hall, right across whatever that North South Street is.
Okay, okay.
So Mayhaw Library, Buddy Holly Center is right there.
Okay. So don't forget that. We will not be meeting here, so don't come here. Just come, that's on September the 10th. So it'll be downtown at that facility. Don't forget the Lubbock Book Festival coming up in October the 15th. You should be getting an email letting you know you've been approved for a food. And I got mine a couple of days ago, and a bill. So yeah, if you haven't, you should be getting that soon. Next month, we're going to be looking for volunteers. I know that's a horrible word since people are running, but we need volunteers for a nominating committee for officers next year. So you could be getting your hand warmed up to raise it. So we're going to be nominating some of the new officers on the board. Our Kickstarter that Steve Curry set up for our anthology is not doing well, and it only has a few more days to. It ends on the 19th. I think we only have something like $120. So if we don't get the 800, which it'll take a miracle, it won't do. So we'll have to think of some other way to raise money to publish this anthology. it costs, and it's a lot of work for the people who put it together and get it put in formatted and everything. So, so that is, if you feel the need, if you feel a movement, go over to the Kickstarter. The link is on our homepage on the website, and it'll take you over there, and you can you can offer some money. I think that's about all for now. Yes.
I want to make a suggestion. I mean, there's several people in this room. Some of us, I'll use cards, but some of us may have a couple of bucks. So maybe map this, and by the end of the meeting, if you want to donate to the Kickstarter campaign for the anthology, give Mathis a couple bucks, $5. I think, I don't know how many people are in here, but if there's 10 of us have $5 each, that's $50, etc.
That's a good idea.
I just wanted to suggest that.
Yeah, just slip it to me. No one wants to see it.
Mathis is for the Kickstarter campaign.
Just walk on and put it in. Keep going. So anyway, I will turn this over to Cameron Harris to announce our wonderful guest. We're so glad that he's here, and I can't wait to hear what he says.
Take your money for the gift.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the little break that we had last month. Like Jan said, it feels like it's been 6 months since we've been here, so I'm glad to see everybody. My name is Cameron Harris. I am the program director for this year and next year, and so if you have program ideas, I would love to hear them. If you would like to do a program, I'd love to hear that. We want to get as much input from our members as we can get, and so those ideas are welcome, and I am the person to speak to about that, or you can email caprockriders@gmail.com, and that information will get to me. We have some fantastic programs coming up. Again, I want to promote the meeting next month at Luca, and don't forget, it's not going to be here, it's going to be at Luca. They're having a fall festival here during that month, and so that's why we're not here. So don't come here because you're going to get sucked into the fall festival stuff and you're going to miss it. You can come here after, and it'll still be here, so go to Luca. It's going to be a longer program than normal because so our speaker is Joey Navarro. Let me just find her, I had her file pulled up here. So Joey Navarro is the author of 15 books plus 9 book sets published by Harlequin and Harlequin Love Inspired, including the Fresh Start Family Romance series and Cowboys of Diamondback Ranch series. Now she's a romance author, but she's not going to be speaking specifically about romance. It's about plotting your books to match the internal plot set of that Hollywood writers, that screenwriters use. And so we're going to watch a movie, and as the movie goes along, we're going to be watching The Mummy, Brendan Fraser, classic, and she's going to be pointing out the movie, the plot points in the movie that you can use to identify plot points for your own books and kind of follow that rhythm that we've all internalized for storytelling. And it's a really great presentation, and I know you don't want to miss it. So, but for our, sorry, my tech. Our meeting this month. I'm so glad to finally get Sterling Chancey here because KJ and I met him, I guess, last year at one of the Comic Cons, and he had his booth and he had his little chicken share and his stickers and everything. And, I bought a couple of his books for my nephew. And if you ever want to be a hero to your nieces or nephews, buy them comic books, graphic novels, and have them autographed to them, because I'm elevated now above the other aunt. Like I moved up rank, I'm a full aunt now, and he loved the book about David's Eternal, so I'm a hero. Sterling the hero, it's all great. So, Sterling Chancey is an illustrator and cartoonist who specializes in comics, illustrations, and graphic design. He works as a graphic designer and self-publishes comic books and children's books that he sells at local comic cons. So, welcome, Sterling.
Hi, good morning. Nice to see you all. Thanks again for inviting me. I didn't tell you this, but when you invited me, I feel like I got tricked a little bit. Because you said, hey, you're doing a comic book month here in a couple months. Like, are you interested? And I said, yeah, sure, I'm interested. And I thought you meant just attending.
Oh.
And I took leave and said, oh no, she needs to be the speaker. I would have never volunteered for this, but thank you for allowing me. Appreciate it. That was a good trick. It worked out. So I'm from Big Spring, Texas. It's 2 hours south from here. I grew up there. I've been drawing my entire life. I remember I completely just skipped that stick figures stage. I would like take my action figures, set them on a table, and just try to draw them. And about third grade, I met a kid named Ben, and we started drawing for each other, just cracking each other up with our drawings, making each other laugh. And I just fell in love with that. I fell in love with the act of drawing something to make somebody laugh. And so I've just been chasing that ever since. So I went to an art school, went to the Savannah College of Art and Design in Savannah, Georgia. I was a major in sequential art, and that's the study of comic books and storyboards and illustrations. I graduated in 2016. Excuse me. And then I spent a couple of years in Dallas. I did some graphic design jobs. I didn't like it. Dallas is way too big. Especially being from Big Spring. That's a small town. Trying to jump to Dallas, it's way too big. Lubbock has been like the perfect middle sized city. And so this has been the place that I've chosen to start my comics career. I've just been, ever since I've been here in Lubbock, I've been here for 3 years. I've been making books. I've been self-publishing books. And let me show you. Over here. All right, I'm going to show you all my books. That's weird. Over here. Nothing to do about it.
That might be as good as it gets.
That's all right. This is the first book that I made. This is called Chicken Sheriff. This is a comic book. It's about 30 pages. And it's about this old western town. And there's this bad outlaw. His name's Outlaw Chaney. He comes to town. And he basically wanted to take over the town, but he's stopped by the sheriff of the town. He doesn't expect it's going to be Chicken Sheriff. It's really just a normal chicken. He barks, he doesn't talk, he just barks, and he eats seed off the ground. But the Outlaw Chaney challenges Chicken Sheriff to a duel. Does not work. Did y'all hear what I said about Chicken Sheriff? Okay. Anyway, they get into a duel, Chicken Sheriff and Outlaw Jim, and I won't spoil it, but there's a little bit of a twist. And the twist is based on like, why would you want a Chicken Sheriff? What kind of advantages would a chicken have in the situation? Well, that's lovely, thank you. The next book I made was a children's book. I wanted to try something different. So I made Dave the Turtle. And it's about this grumpy man named Dave, who's on the bottom left there. He's mad, angry, he's easily annoyed, especially by loud noises. But he's lonely, so he decides to get a pet. And, you know, he's looking for pet stores, you know, should I get a dog? No, they're too loud, cats are too annoying. I think I'll get just a nice, quiet turtle. He settles on this turtle, and let's see. Here we go. There we go. So he settles on this nice, quiet turtle here, thinking it'll be a good pet for him. But then, when they go to bed that night, this turtle starts getting into all kinds of hijinks and waking him up over and over. So here you go. Here's the turtle on a dirt bike. He's tap dancing. He's breaking boards, karate style. He's making a smoothie. This is all like middle of the night, waking Dave up. But the resolution of the story is that the turtle gives him this pair of earmuffs that he made, and they make up and they learn to, you know, they've learned how to work their friendship. That, you know, the turtle can be himself, Dave can be himself, and they can be friends. And I'll link it back to Chicken Sheriff. I forgot I had some images from this. This is my my narrator character. He introduces Chicken Sheriff at the beginning of the book. And then this is a page, one of the first pages from it, where we're introducing the town and the outlaws walk in. This is Outlaw Jim confronting Chicken Sheriff, and he's getting angrier and angrier as he's trying to come to terms with the fact that they have a chicken as a sheriff. It's so ridiculous. But he learns that the townspeople, they absolutely love the sheriff. They support him 100%, and that just makes Outlaw Jim angrier. So here's one of the final shots. This is a full page splash I made. This is their duel. And just recently, I published a third book. I just got the copy. They just shipped me a few days ago. Let me just show you all that. Let's see. My newest book is called How to Magazine, and it's a collection of all the webcomics, illustrations, and different things I've been doing kind of on the side. Stuff that I didn't know how to put into the book, and so I compiled it all. And also I added lots of advice to newer artists. Hopefully it'll load here. It's called How to Magazine. Here it is. Here it is right here. Howdy.
Do you use InDesign to put your illustrations and words together then?
Yes, so I draw all my illustrations in Adobe Photoshop. And I like to start, you know, I'll just on my sketchbook, drawing on pencil paper. Take it into Photoshop, and I draw digitally. And then the way that I compile the pages is in InDesign. Okay, here's Howdy Magazine. Here's the cover. I wanted to just be very representational of just like the way that, you know, my style and the way that I just love drawing just very like cartoony characters, very inspired by the kind of stuff that I was watching as a kid, lots of Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon. So I just wanted lots and lots of characters. Then I have a section on comics that I did based on movies I like. This is Whiplash. I've got Interstellar here, Kill Bill, Planet of the Apes, and Spider-Man. I kind of just poke fun at these movies that I like. lots of those. During the quarantine, I started watching Star Trek: Next Generation and started making comics about that. There's more here. Comics about the characters, kind of making fun of them. Then I've got just illustrations I made. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. LeVar Burton, he shared this on Instagram. I was really happy that day. Here's a full spread illustration I did. Different fan arts, different things, Batman here. Original characters. These are collabs that I've done with other artists where we each draw one panel to make a comic. But the twist is that we can only see the panel before ours. You don't get to see the rest of the comic, and so the comic takes some twists and turns. And I went into something that was just exclusive, something that people that don't follow me on social media, something that they haven't seen. So I put in sketches from my sketchbook that are very rough. I just want to show the kind of stuff that I just draw. So anyways, I just put a lot of stuff in Happy Magazine. It's 80 pages long. It's just chock full of stuff. Here's some digital doodles.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Okay, so anyway, we get to the meat and potatoes here. I just wanted to talk about my process as an artist, what I do, both make comic books and children's books. We'll be focusing more on comic books. I'm going to be breaking down how I make Chicken Sheriff. And first you need a story. And the way that I learned story, I read 2 books. I read a book called Invisible Ink. Maybe y'all read this book, Invisible Ink? It's by a guy, Brian McDonald. He worked at Pixar. And he basically breaks down a story in these lines. Once upon a time, blank, and every day until one day, and because of this, and because of this, until finally. Basically, that's just setting up like, there's a status quo. Your main character is happy in that status quo, or maybe they're unhappy, but something all of a sudden changes. That's until one day. Something changes. The world changes, or some kind of problem is thrust upon the character, and the character has to willingly leap into that challenge and hopefully change because of it. There's something about the character that needs to change in their personality. And we'll go through ups and downs until finally the problem will be resolved and the character has changed for the better. This is a great book. Another one I read, Save the Cat. This one's about how to write movie scripts, but I thought, even though it's about movies, I feel like it could be, relevant to any kind of story. And he breaks down all the different beats of movies. Let's see here. And Save the Cat, that title, that's referencing this rule that Blake Snyder creates. Save the Cat means that you have your protagonist, and at the beginning of the story, that protagonist has to do something or be something for us, the audience, to like them, to root for them. And so they have to save a cat. It's a metaphor. They can do whatever. But something that we can see some humanity in, especially if that character is an anti-hero. They can be rude and angry, but we have to show just a little bit of humanity so that we know that there's something to be salvaged there. So we're rooting for them to change. That's what save the cat means. Basically, he breaks down all these different points here. This is, and his theory is that you can see these points in these beats in every movie that you've watched. And ever since I read this book, I've been watching movies going, oh, there it is. There's all the beats that he's talking about. I can see them. And I won't go through all of all of them, but really recommend this book. It's just been really fascinating to me to learn the structure of stories and the way to create them. And so that's something I'm using for new things that I'm writing. So anyway, this is after you get your story, the next step is to write a script. I'd say this is more for comics, but for children's books as well, you definitely need to know the words that you're going to put down. So this is an example of a comic script. I don't particularly like these. I don't like scripts. I'd rather just write an outline. But if any of you are interested in making comics and you want to submit something to a publisher, they're going to want a script like this. And so it's basically just breaking down panel by panel what's happening, what's the shot. You know, is it a close-up shot? Is it far away? What are the characters saying? There's sound effects. Whatever you can do to help the artist picture what you're picturing. All right, so you've got your script, and then it's time for thumbnails. All right, this is laying out your comic. It's in here. All right, so these are very little drawings. They're, you know, this whole like four-page thing. This is just on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. I break it into 4 squares. It makes you draw really tiny because you're just trying to plan out your shots. You're not trying to get too many details in there. You're just trying to figure out, okay, do I want wide shots? Do I want, you know, close-ups? What do I want the characters to be doing? Maybe plan out the speech bubbles a little bit. Laying out the panels. I'd say that the panel layout is one of the most important things when you're making comics. You know, when you read comics, you go top to bottom, left to right, same as you read a normal book. But panel layout is constantly reminding you of that format. And so I'm wanting to direct the eyes, you know, to read this way across, and the word balloons here. Those are also, I'm making sure I'm putting those in the right place where you're going to read this one first, and then this one, jump down here, all the way through. I'm also trying to figure out ways to also direct the eye, like, say for instance, like, I've got this guy pointing here, and this is kind of my little hint of like, either turn the page or look at the next page. So I've got my thumbs here, just trying to plan everything out. These will probably go through many revisions, just trying to get things right. All right, so I've got my thumbs here. Then I can start planning out what kind of character is going to be involved. There's some sketches I did for Owl Jim. I was just trying to draw like, okay, what is his proportions? What is he wearing? How tall is he? What kind of facial expressions is he making? I want him to be very expressive, animated, especially when he's angry. Then I got to figure out, well, okay, you know, I'm drawing all the main characters and what your sure looks like, you know, everybody, but like, you've got to have background characters. And so I drew all my background characters. These are just the men. I drew them all and then I named them all so that in their in the background, you know, I can draw like a seating chart. I can figure out, okay, like, you know, Henry and David, they're going to be over here in this corner. Michelle's going to be over here. Let's see, I'm gonna go back. Okay, so this is something. Don't be too impressed because I didn't make this. But this is something that I downloaded into a program called Blender. This is a 3D software. And this is, I did change a lot of things. I rearranged the furniture and I deleted some things. There was a big staircase over here in this section that I deleted. It was a two-story building and I just made 1 story. Anyway, I needed something to like plan out shots something to reference. Like, what is the swing going to look like? And so what I do is I cut out my shots and I take a screenshot and I put it back into Photoshop when I'm drawing, and I use that as reference. And I even kind of trace lines so that I'm getting the perspective right. So I have my character design, and I have my environment, and I can even I can move around. I can move around this guy, if I need to like keep track of where he's going to be. This is very handy. This is called Blender. This is what you see a lot of animated movies and CGI will use Blender for different things. And I would take something like that. I would put it back into Photoshop and just make sure that I'm keeping track of my environment. And this is what I was talking about, like my seating chart comes in handy. I know which guys, are sitting where. I know where the characters are going to be as the story progresses. And this is called the rough stage. The drawings are still very, very rough. But I'm trying to start nailing down like different expressions and poses. As you can see, I've got lots of notes. I'm constantly putting things down that I think I can change. Because this time process, it's a lot of revision, trying things over and over.
Are you on computer at this stage, or is this still by hand?
This is still by pencil.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought like.
Good question. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is still pencil. And these are a little bigger now. These are 2 8.5 by 11 pages. So I've gotten bigger with my drawings. That's letting me put in more detail. So I drew all 30 pages in roughs, and then I did. This is still pencil, but now this is 11 by 17 pieces of paper. It's way bigger. And this lets me get a lot tighter with my drawings and getting very close to the drawings that I want in the final comic.
Okay.
Get really tight here. I'm trying to pay attention to my word balloons, where they're going, maybe putting a little dialogue. And then I can scan this into Photoshop where we are now, and I'm putting a filter over the drawings, turn them into blue lines, and that's kind of thing to see. That's what I want. I want them very faint, because what I do now is now that I'm in Photoshop, I'm going to take my brush tool, and I can set it up today, but I have this Cintiq monitor over there. And that's just a special kind of monitor where I can draw right on the screen with a pen. And so on my monitor, I just start tracing over my lines exactly. Little by little, and I trace over every little bit of these pages, and this is called the inking stage, until I get this. And this is a ton of work, because I'm trying really carefully to make sure that every line is perfect, every detail is accounted for, everything shows well together. I'm also putting in spot blacks, like you see something that's like a solid black here. You see it. That's more than this page. Pieces that are just solid black, these are called spot blacks. They're just kind of to up contrast on the page. This is something that was maybe more common back in the printed comic book superhero era, where we didn't have a lot of colors. So we use black as kind of a tool to make more contrast. Blues, and then you put in your inks. And the next stage is called flatting. That's a stage of coloring where you're just putting in base colors. looks like this. And it looks pretty good, you know, you're just getting like, okay, this guy's jacket is brown, chicken strips, little neck things blue. You're getting the base colors down. This is also a lot of work. It's just basically just coloring book, you know, just coloring the lines. This, you know, in Photoshop there are layers, and I'm making sure that my color layer is below my ink layer. So that way, there's no way that I can color over my lines. It only goes under.
What's it look like without the line?
Or so,
What's it look like without the lines?
oh, that's a good question. Let's see without the lines. Okay, so this was, I was kind of messing around with this thing, so I do have a little bit of blue lines here. Usually you'll see like, just a bunch of like random colors just kind of squashed together. Alright, so then you do, for this comic I shaded everything, I kind of added, you know, more details. You know, shading sheriff, he's got some shading here, you know, looks like the light is hitting him from this angle. I added in, you know, these like subtle like wood textures here. And I was like, I don't know if I can see this, but there's like this very splotchy texture that I added in the background, just to give it some personality. I didn't want to be just this flat green. I wanted to make it look like a little watercolory. So in Photoshop, I have all these different brushes that do different things, and they kind of mimic traditional mediums. So you can have things that, you know, maybe see pens or watercolors, acrylic paints, whatever I want. And so here I wanted some kind of like splattery watercolor texture. And then I doubt this is going to show up, but I have said this, let's show with and without. Just kind of outside this like kind of canvasy texture. I just want to give it a lot of personality. And then, one last thing to do on this page, you watch that window at the top right, I had just a little bit of glow coming off. Just to get it, you know, make it look like there's light coming through it. And then I usually try to draw the entire drawing first and add the bubbles on top. And then putting the words in.
So do you have a bubble layer that then you pop in and just so that it comes on top?
Sorry, say it again.
So you have what you call a bubble layer so that all your bubbles will then come up on top?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, this is my bubble layer, which is just true with the pen. And you know, if I need to, I can select something. Oops. I can move things around if I need to change the composition a little bit. And I'm also making sure, I'm typing in my letters. And I'm just trying to make sure that they have enough room in the speech bubble. I notice a lot of comic artists still, like, they'll just have them like way too big. Like they don't breathe. You gotta give them some breathing room.
So is that like a comic font you're using, or did you actually draw your font too?
So all comic artists, they do just hand letter. They'll write in their own letters. I'm too lazy for that, so I just type this in. This is a font called Milk Mustache. There's also programs you can find on the internet where they let you draw each letter in the alphabet, and then they do the work to compile it into a font that you can then download and then type in yourself. And so then it's your handwriting. It looks great. And so I will probably do that for the next book I make. Right now I'm actually remaking Chicken Sheriff. I'm turning it into a graphic novel pitch. So making 10 sample pages, and I'm going to submit that to literary agents. And so I'm probably going to use that font program.
What's the page count difference between a comic and a graphic novel?
So a comic book is usually 22 pages, and there's at least 5 to 7 panels per page. Chicken Sheriff was 30 pages. A children's book is usually 30 pages. But usually you only want maybe 1 illustration per page. And so I realized, I made the Chicken Sheriff first comic book, and I did the math. It was like 100 drawings, and I sold that book for $10. And then I made a children's book. It had maybe 30 drawings, and I also sold it for $10. So I realized, wow, there's like it's so much easier to make children's books.
How long does it take you to complete a book? All of it?
Chicken Sheriff I made in 4 months, and that was like kind of a mad dash.
Oh, okay.
Because there was a Comic-Con coming up. It was going to be my first Comic-Con, and I was like, okay, there's Comic-Con coming up in 4 months. There's my deadline. I'm going to make Chicken Sheriff in time for that, so it was just a mad dash.
Oh.
David the Turtle took me longer, even though it's less drawings, and it took me maybe 6 months, but it was just because I was more slow about it. I wanted to take my time on it. I think if I tried hard, I could probably make another children's book in about 3 months. But most of the time is spent just refining the drawings, drawing the thumbnails and constantly refining until you get the exact drawing you want. And so, I know you're kind of curious about children's books, and a lot of y'all are interested in them. And I don't think there's a lot of difference between comic books and children's books, just a matter of drawings. I know that kids' books, they don't, the style that's kind of popular these days, they don't really like line work as much, that inking phase. They'd rather have just blocks of color. So if you can imagine my drawings. Imagine these just with color and no lines. That's kind of the more popular children's book of these days. And the children's books, I have some opinions about those. I feel like what I've discovered is that a lot of children's books these days, they're very focused on theming of it, the moral. And it feels like they come with the moral first, and then the book is the story is, based around that. And I'd love to see more children's books these days, be like the story first, and then once the story is being created in the author's mind, figure out what is the story trying to teach me. Letting the story find moral instead of picking the moral first. I think you might find a more successful story that way. Just something more entertaining, something that kids will like. I don't think the kids like to be preached to. And if you're going to have a theme in your book, I think it should be kind of snuck in. It should be subtle.
Like vegetables.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. All right, I have some book recommendations. Anyway, if you're interested in comics, these are some books that I like. Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud. Basically just answers the question, what are comics? Why do we need them, in our culture? What are they as an art form? And so he breaks down, how can we take, this book that's just picture after picture, and tell stories with that. And then his next book, Making Comics, is just really just instructional, basically what we're talking about here, all the different steps included. This third one here is Comic Book Art, Foundations in Comic Book Art. This is a book that was published by the college that I went to, SCAD. This is good. It's just breaking down things like perspective and character design, what kind of tools you need for the job. And here are some comics I'd recommend if you haven't really dived into comics yet. These are some great ones that I think are a great start. Bone is kind of like a middle school grade graphic novel series. It's a fantasy. It's very funny and it's action-packed and emotional, and it's just like the golden standard of what comics can be. The second one here called Moss, Big Mouse. This kind of shows you that comic books don't have to be like silly and goofy and disposable. They can cover any kind of genre. And so this is this guy Art Spiegelman. He made a memoir of his father's time being a Jew in the Holocaust, and it's very raw and emotional and dark, and it just shows you how serious comic books can be out there in this medium that can be anything. Now, the way he does this, you think of, so in this book, the Jews, they're represented by mice. And you think, that's silly, but each nationality in the book is a different animal. So the Germans are cats, the French are frogs, and it's a really good way to, like, when you see a character pop up in a comic, you immediately know what nationality they are, and that plays well into the story. The third one here is called Flight. This is a compilation of different artists. They do like little short stories, comics, and this is a book that like showed me that comics can be any kind of style you want. They can be weird or experimental, but as long as you tell a good story, it works perfectly. Children's books, I don't have a picture of it, but a children's book that I really like that I still remember to this day, it was called The Scrambled States of America. And it was about all the different states of America. They're personified. They all have different personalities, and they go to this convention and they start talking to one another, and they realize that they're kind of jealous of each other's positions in America. And they make this decision to they scramble, they start switching positions. All of a sudden you have, Californians over on the east, whatever, and so America's all of a sudden this crazy shape. They stay there for a while, it's happy, and then they realize that they're home sick, and they don't go well together, the states beside them, and so they decide to go back to being their American shape. Anyway, that's one that I really like just because it was just so funny and entertaining, and I just think that's a really key part to a successful children's book, something that kids are going to remember. All right, well that's kind of just short through there real quick, but tell me other questions about process or just being an artist.
Yeah, I got 2 questions on the art.
Yeah.
The first one is when you're taking it from the 11 by 17 drawing, what works in today's world? Like, I used to do art a long time ago, but I started studying graphic stories because I was like, oh, that's got to be good first. So, back then, I remember even DPI could have been like 150 because that's all you need for the screen, but I was still saving my stuff like 500 thinking one day it's going to be a better quality. When you're converting that over from the 11 by 17 and scanning it in and figuring out your overall image size, looks like your size or DPI goals.
Well, I think I'm staying in at probably 300. Okay. But let's take a look at for this page. This is. So I made this. This is I made this page the exact size that I wanted here. So this is 7.3 by 7.3. I don't think this is the standard size. You can probably look up what is the standard comic size. I wanted this a little bit bigger. It looks like we've got 300 DPI right here. So yeah, 300 definitely going to get you what you want. Okay. 500 would be just something really detailed, or it's going to be really huge.
Yeah, there are also vector drawing programs now.
Yes.
It feels like drawing Photoshop, but it's a vector, so you can be expanded to any size.
Yeah, he's talking about there's a program called Chris Studio. Oh yeah. And that lets you draw a vector. And basically what whatever size you think it's going to be perfect.
Okay. So the second question was going to be about that next piece. What do you then make it bigger and then you shrink it down to print it so that you can do more quality, or how does that work?
It's more like this kind of page here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is no, this is always set to the size that I want it.
Okay.
The reason that it's 11 by 17, that big page, is just so that like when I'm at a desk with a pencil, like I have plenty of room to draw the details I want. I get really in there. Yeah, it doesn't really, digitally it doesn't really need to be that big.
You can zoom.
Yeah, it's yeah. Answer your question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you ever use Illustrator to do any of your vector drawing, or do you just stick with Photoshop?
So I'm a graphic designer as my day job, and I use Illustrator all the time. But for comic work, not so much. It might be useful. Illustrator has a better, interface when it comes to making type. And so for this book, I actually did make all my type in Illustrator, and then copied and pasted it back into Photoshop. I don't know if that was super necessary. And I don't think the comics necessarily have to be vector. As long as there's a good DPI, they'll look good. Yeah.
Does anybody still hand draw comics, or is it all digital? Like
Some people do.
Yeah, lots of people still draw.
Yeah, you definitely find them. I think digital is becoming more and more of the standard just because it's easier. But yeah, definitely people still draw them. We'll still hand ink. There's an artist. His name is Kazu Kibushi. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, he did that flight at
Yeah, Flight. He also did a series called Amulet, and he takes his pencils, and he doesn't even ink them. He just scans in his pencils, and they're kind of like dark kind of pencil, and that's what he'll use for the final art.
and he draws it like 5 by 7.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
it's like you're drawing, though, like you're using something on a screen instead.
Yeah. Yeah, like
You tell them a little tech on it.
Yeah, there's a my CT computer there, and there's a special pen, and it's got a pressure sensitivity on the pen, and so I can get the kind of lines, and it feels a lot like drawing with some kind of brush or something. And these different brushes that I use, they all have different personalities to them, so I get something that looks and feels more like a brush, or like a nib pen, or a micron pen. So in a lot of ways, it's imitating traditional art. Anybody else?
How are you so darn funny? Like, I've read both of them, and they're hilarious. Like, where do you come up with the idea for a chicken, or like some of your irony, like at the end of that story? Like, what made you think in that?
No, you're okay.
Like, it is.
Mustache give me some powers. I don't know. That's a hard question to ask. I think, like I was saying at the beginning, like I fell in love with the idea of making people laugh at my drawings, and so I've been chasing that. I think that's pushed me to find ideas that I find funny. And that's an important part of it, is that I'm making things that will make me laugh, and I'm kind of betting myself, thinking, okay, if this makes me laugh, it'll probably make somebody else laugh. Maybe somebody won't have my sense of humor, but probably some people will. The way that I've found stories come to me is I can't just sit at a computer or a desk and be like, think of a story. That doesn't work. Usually what happens is I'll take walks or get in the shower, drive, and I think of it as just like putting my satellite up. I'm open to ideas. I'm not trying to make them. And a lot of times they'll just float in. I was reading Stephen King's On Writing. It's a book called On Writing, he talks about finding stories as he talks like they're fossils, where they existed before him, and he's just discovering them instead of creating them. And that's kind of how I feel too, is that I'm finding stories, and I don't think I can just create them on demand. And,
There's so many. There's so many. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I think just watching lots of cartoons and TV and movies that are funny, I think that's helps develop my sense of humor as well.
Speaking of movies, what's the background picture on your?
Oh yeah, so that's a good question. You talking about,
Is it Robin Williams?
I said what?
Is that Robin Williams?
It looks like Robin Williams, but this is from,
I'm sorry, it's Kevin Flash.
Silverado.
Yeah.
Silverado, okay.
Oh, that's Kevin Flash.
So I've been gathering lots of reference, like I said, I've been making graphic novel pitches, so I've been like taking movies and making screenshots. So I've got, I think this is a Shanghai noon. I was just like, I saved a shot of the saloon, I'll take a screenshot.
So this is part of your research?
Yes, this is my research.
That's cool.
Is that a tack product?
This is from Jacob and Chaney. I was like, oh, look at those. That's a great shot of, Western town. This is from True Grit, the remake that the Coen Brothers made. So I'm also using it for like character designs. Like I want to know what people were wearing in these movies.
Yeah.
And so I just got like loads of reference pictures that I've saved. Both from like, I'm taking like, I'll find comic styles that I like. If I see an art that I like, I'll just save that and just use that for reference. So I've got loads of pictures like this, just drawing these artists that I admire that I want to try to emulate. And I need again. Yeah, lots of reference. I gotta try to figure out how to draw horses, which is super hard. No, I haven't. I don't know.
Great place to go for creativity and.
What's it called? Further across the okay, thank you.
Andrew Galloway's does it next month. But it's across the street.
Where at?
It's where it usually is. It's behind the library. Yeah. Buddy Holly Center kind of moving across the street.
I used to sketch the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Oh, that's.
Chuck the chicken fried steak.
Maybe you get to publish your comics.
So far I've just self-published.
Oh,
I've self-published, I file them in design, and I have a printer in Michigan called Comics Wellspring.
oh.
I just bulk-grade my books.
Oh, okay.
But, I still feel a little early in my career. I'm trying to self-publish and just kind of build up a little bit of a resume. And but I want to take Chip and Sheriff, and I want to start pitching it to literary agents. Yeah, I think too. And so I know that I need like 10 sample pages, I need an outline of my story, I need pages of character designs, and I gotta write some kind of brief like synopsis of the story, and figure out what the perfect email to send. But anyway, I've got lots of been researching literary agents, and I've got lots of them bookmarked on my web browser. And so I think I would want those people that I'm going to email when it's finished. But I would love to be published. That's my goal for my career. Is I want to make books. I want to make book after book. A lot of both comic books and children's books, and whatever else I can think of. Yeah, definitely a goal of mine.
Did you bring any for sale to sell your
But if y'all want to purchase the book, I'm going to be at Star Comics on 34th. I'm going to be there all evening. We're having a thing. It's called Night at Star Comics. There's going to be me and a few other artists. We're going to have tables there. We're going to be selling our art. All my books available.
Okay, that's tonight?
Yes, that's tonight. I believe it starts at 6 or 7.
Star Comics, if y'all remember, a few months ago, we had someone here from Star Comics.
Rob. Yeah. He's a good guy. Yeah, he's really nice and carrying my comics at the store. So I'll be there if you want to purchase some books. My website is sterlingchaney.com. If y'all want to purchase them online, there's some stickers for sale too.
Will you have your new one there tonight?
Yes, yeah. It's kind of debuting there tonight.
So do you do ebooks also, or just printed books?
I have not done any ebooks yet. I found that process a little intimidating, but I would like to get involved with it. I've seen some people have good success with that, so I just got to figure out the means to that.
As a writer, and can't draw artistic figures,
Sure.
when I'm looking at this and I'm thinking about how the similarities, kind of the more things change, the more things say. Like it comes down to the story, that's the basis of it.
Yes.
I'm looking at those little bubbles and I'm thinking, that's not enough words. It's not enough words. And so, you convey so much with the illustrations. And so I'm just kind of curious, is that a challenge for you to decide what's going to go in the word bubble and what you're going to convey with the illustration? Is that just something that's kind of internalized for your work?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, so I'm a huge movie fan, and I kind of, when I'm trying to picture my own comics, I kind of think of them as a movie, and I think of them taking place, real people, actions, and that helps me. And I also have that problem where it's like, you have this tiny little word bubble, and you got to try to simplify the dialogue to fit in there. Yeah, it is a challenge for sure, but cartooning it's kind of the art of simplification. As you can see, I don't draw very realistically. I'm trying to take a character like a cowboy and just kind of very simply draw big shapes, not a lot of details, and that's kind of how I feel about writing as well, where I'm trying to take the essence of the story and kind of whittle it down to the core parts of it.
It just seems like, it just strikes me as a really great exercise for because whether we have bubbles to fit it in or not, that should be our goal, and it could get indulgent, I guess, if we don't have that necessity to know that now.
Yeah.
And we don't want to make indulgent books.
Any more questions? Thank you so much for listening to me rant.
Oh my goodness. I really admire you. And I'm so glad that my 300-page books don't have to be illustrated. But that's a really good art, and you are so talented. Okay, you want to turn the lights back on? Okay, now we need your news, but I want to start off. I'll go first. I have a self-published, my first self-published book is coming out Monday, and it's called Fantasy, and it been very challenging. But I'm very proud of how it turned out, and I plan on doing another self-published book in October, a Christmas one. So after that, I'll probably hang it up. But anyway, also, I recently got a contract with a Sovereign House Publishing in London, England. And so I'll be writing for them, at least 2 books, hopefully more. So I'm scared and excited, and I don't know how well they know cowboys or what life was like on the American frontier. Who knows? Could be scary. So, I don't know. That's my news. So,
How's the movie coming?
The movie.
You have a movie deal.
Jodie Thomas has
Oh,
a
that
movie.
was Jodie. I thought that was
Right.
Jodie.
Well, it's a series on Netflix. She sold her Ransom Canyon series, and so that will be coming out probably the first of next year. And they're hiring. They've written a script. They're hiring actors and getting going on it. So yeah. I think there's going to be 8 episodes in this first series, so in the first season. Thank you. I lost my word. The first season, and then hopefully they'll do a second and more. So I'm very excited about that for her. She's worked all her life for this moment. It's been a dream that she had ever since she first started writing. So, leading to great things. So, who wants to start? Does anybody have news? We want to recognize you.
So I had a box set that I had published on, I had all my books self-published on Amazon, Kindle. So I had all of my books on Amazon Kindle, and I have moved them now all, like, taken out of the KDP Select, which is, exclusive. I don't know if you all are aware of all of this, but Amazon, if you publish on Kindle, you can be in their Kindle Unlimited program, where if you have Amazon Prime, you can read books free. Like that kind of program. As an author, as a self-published author, you have to make your books exclusive in order to participate in that and get paid for those Kindle Unlimited pages. And so I had all my books in that, and I took them out, and they're still available on Amazon, but now they're also available on Barnes & Noble Nook and Apple Books and all the other ebook retailers and Ingram Spark, where you can buy a physical copy and Barnes & Noble and all that stuff. And so that's what I've been working on, and I finally got that done. And like most of us work full-time in addition to doing this, and so that is a victory. I'm going to claim that. That's something that I'm looking up for now. We have to lower the expectations, but let's stick okay.
No.
Yes, sir, you are. Yeah.
Oh, tell us
Yes, I am.
about Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
Give us an update on Amazon.
Actually, it's been a long time since we've met, and I had my second book in the Ushering series come out the 28th of July, and I haven't seen you guys since then. So I have book 2 of my Ushering series out, and it's going great guns. We did have Amazon this last weekend, and it was a lot of fun. We had several Caprock people that were there, and it's not just selling books, but it's meeting the people and making fans. That's what it's really about.
Okay. That's great. I was going to go to Amazon. My daughter had her birthday, so I didn't get to go. Anyone else?
Over the summer, I released my 3rd children's books in the Texas State Park series. It's called The Timeless Corner, and it takes place near San Antonio. So there's just a summertime floating on the river kind of children's adventure thing. So pretty excited.
What's it called?
The Timeless Corner, and it's in the Texas State Park Adventures children's book series. That's a lot of words.
Anyone else? Okay. Remember, next month we don't meet here. And the address for Blue Hawk is 511 Avenue J. That's the address of that place. So we'll adjourn and go to lunch. And so thank you all for coming. And it's just been so nice seeing you again. And so have a good month, rest of the month. And right.